Folks, welcome to Movie News Monday, where every single Monday, mostly, live on Twitch, we cover all of the news in the world of entertainment. We're talking movies, television, streaming, MCU, DCUs, all the U's, you know what it is. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can know all the cool things that are happening in Hollywood. And when someone goes, did I hear that they're making this movie? You can be like, actually, I already knew. And let me tell you why it's problematic and who's trying to buy it and all of the hot takes. Basically, I'm trying to make you the most annoying person at every dinner party. Oh man, I should really look inward on that. Anyways, first things first, folks, we have our first official look at something that I have been very cautiously optimistic for. We have our first official look at the live-action Legend of Zelda movie. And you know, it's here, it's happening. See, this feels a little bit, for those of you watching on YouTube later, this feels a little bit weird because we just spent the last 15 minutes ranting about the live-action Moana. Which, hey, if you stop by stream, we like to watch trailers and react to that. But we now have our first official look at the live action Legend of Zelda movie. They just started production, and wow, thank God that they're filming outdoors in an actual environment and not on a volume stage. But here's our first official look. So here we have Link and Zelda together. Here is Link. You know, looks like Link. And here's Zelda. Yep, she looks like Zelda. I gotta give them some credit. The ears actually look really good. You know, this movie is being directed by, I believe his name is Wes Ball. Yes, Wes Ball is directing the live-action Legend of Zelda movie. He is most well known for directing the Maze Runner films, so definitely can anticipate that this is going to be trying to hit at that, you know, young adult, older teenager market. This is probably Nintendo's most ripe IP for turning into some sort of massive blockbuster franchise. You know, think about the Super Mario Brothers movie, which made over $1 billion and has already spawned a sequel, which we just got our first trailer for. The Legend of Zelda franchise has an insane amount of lore, whereas, you know, Super Mario Brothers, you made a really successful film based on a very minimal story. Like, and granted, I know as the years have gone on, the Mario games have gotten more of a story, but Legend of Zelda, since its inception, has always had very deep, rich lore, and every single game is basically an adaptation or new interpretation of that same, you know, the same basic pillars of, you know, if you want to call it the pillars of the Triforce, right? So all that to say, there's a lot of potential for Legend of Zelda to be adapted for the big screen. I know that some folks have been asking the question, well, is this a Breath of the Wild adaptation? Because we see Zelda here is in her Breath of the Wild look, but at the same time, Link is in his classic green Hyrule garb, which is not his, you know, default outfit in Breath of the Wild. So who's to say? I have gone on record on this stream before and said I think it'd be really cool to do like a Twilight Princess style story. I think that one's very cinematic. Odds are this is probably just going to be an original story, perhaps maybe just a very safe rendition of, like, you know, Hyrule is a kingdom and Ganon is a villain and Link is a hero. Like, I don't think they're going to overcomplicate it the way that the games have over the years, because granted, like, that's the privilege that the games have for having, you know, years and years, decades of story to work off of. But at the end of the day, this is just our first official look, and all I can say is I'm happy that they're outdoors and not on a soundstage, and they're being lit by the sun instead of, you know, whatever it is that the Moana trailer was doing. This looks like Link. He looks like Link, and that looks like Zelda. So thumbs up for me. I don't know. Are y'all curious to see this movie? Do you have any guesses for what the story's gonna be? I think for me, I'm definitely signed up. I'm very glad that this is gonna be a theatrical release. I would have been heartbroken if this was a direct-to-streaming adaptation. And I have talked about it before. Check out on the YouTube channel how I believe that video game adaptations are basically the next superhero movie, in that they are the next pillars of the box office. So I have a lot of high hope for this movie. There is a world in which they horrendously drop the ball, and I really hope that's not this world. Folks, if you were worried that video game adaptations were going to be too much, if you were worried about all these 90s nostalgias, 80s nostalgia movies coming back, fear not. We still have original stories to tell. Sony Pictures has exclusively signed for the Labubu movie. That's right. So in about 2 to 3 years, when every single Labubu you have ever owned has either been donated to Goodwill, thrown in the back of the closet, or sold on Poshmark or eBay, that is when the Labubu movie will be coming out in theaters. Oh! Yeah, we're effed, man. Yeah. Thank God I was so worried. I know. I was so worried we were never going to know the story of why the blue one is better than the white one. Hold on. What are we implying here? What are we implying here? If it's a Gremlins remake, I'd be down. Okay, you might be cooking there, right? Like, no, what I want out of this is like a like almost heist level, like high thinking, very mentalist style movie about people who are like running the Labubu market. I want The Big Short, but about Labubus. Y'all with me? Y'all following along? So what I want folks to be making a movie about the market and where it goes. We should have gatekeeped Barbie harder. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, guys, I don't know. This is Sony too. Sony who sold the rights to K-pop Demon Hunters to Netflix because they didn't think it was going to be successful. So clearly they know what they're doing. No word yet on if this is going to be a live action movie, an animated movie. No story details as of yet. But I don't know. I mean, you know, it is their animation division that has the rights, so maybe it'll be animated, but guys, I don't know. Like, what is the story with a Labubu movie? It's just gonna be like the Trolls movie, basically, but with Labubus. Like, I know that there's like lore surrounding the Labubu. I hate how many times I'm saying the word Labubu. I don't know what we're doing. It's like every now and then you see a headline and it's like John M. Chu from Wicked is doing Hot Wheels, and you go, that makes no fucking sense, but you sure, I'll buy, right? And then you see Mattel greenlights a Polly Pocket movie, and you go, okay, maybe I think I got the wrong lesson, but there's a world. And then you see like Rubik's Cube movie in development, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about here. And now Labubu the film. I think what makes me the most mad about this is knowing that it's going to be like $100 million. The budget, that is. We haven't lost all hope because, folks, thank you to the incredible Jennifer Lawrence on the Las Culturita. Hold on, let me run that back. Thanks to Jennifer Lawrence on the Las Culturistas podcast. She confirmed that she and Emma Stone are producing a Miss Piggy movie with Cola Scola writing it. And let's just watch the clip. Let's just watch the clip.
Emma Stone and I are producing a Miss Piggy movie, and Cole is writing it. Emma Stone and I are.
It's the only reaction.
Movie,
their faces is the only correct reaction. Which is exactly how I felt reading the news. This is awesome. This is awesome. We already know that the Muppets are making their return next year with Seth Rogen and Evan Peters producing. Not Evan Peters, Evan Goldberg. Hold on. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are producing a Muppet special that is meant to serve as essentially a pilot to see if the Muppets could make a comeback, starring Sabrina Carpenter, which I called. Thank you very much. And now we also have a Miss Piggy movie in development. Now, Jennifer Lawrence did go on to talk about this some more on a late night appearance, saying that she had been developing the story with a friend regarding Miss Piggy in the modern Hollywood world. And she brought in Emma Stone as a producer to kind of help actually make sure the movie got made. And yeah, they're working on it. They're working on it with Disney and with the Jim Henson family, and hopefully we'll see something very soon. I can only imagine that the Muppet special with Sabrina Carpenter does well. Like, it is just like, you know, if I could pick one person, if I could pick like literally my draft pick for making the Muppets succeed, it would be Seth Rogen, it would be Sabrina Carpenter, and it would be a movie about Miss Piggy. And here we go. We nailed it. Why can't we just let Miss Piggy join SNL? Look, but that's what the Muppet Show is. And I feel like a lot of people grew up watching the Muppet movies, and the Muppets have kind of fallen out. Like, the original Muppets has kind of like fallen back to a distant memory. The original Muppet Show basically was SNL. They would have a celebrity guest come in, they would do sketches, they would do musical numbers. It literally was SNL, just with puppets. So hopefully, look, there's a world where the Muppets just fully come back and they're doing so well that maybe we do have Miss Piggy. Oh my God. Okay, someone note this for later. Someone note this for years from now when this movie comes out. There is a world where, as part of the marketing for this film, Miss Piggy hosts SNL. I'm just gonna throw that out there. There is a world where that legitimately happens. And I want to live in that world. That's the world I want to live in, not in the Labubu movie coming soon world. And look, I'm just glad at the end of the day that we are one step closer to my dream of having the Muppets host an award show. The Oscars would be great, but Golden Globes would make more sense because everyone's already drunk. And speaking of Sabrina Carpenter, who is helping champion the Muppets back into the world, that's not the only film that Carpenter's got in the works. I guess following her incredibly successful Short and Sweet tour and the back-to-back albums with Short and Sweet and Man's Best Friend, Sabrina Carpenter is heading back into her acting game. You know, she did 2 massive albums back-to-back in the middle of a massive tour. So yeah, girl, take a break, make some movies, make a Muppet special, and it looks like she's now going to be leading an Alice in Wonderland inspired musical. It's not specifically a Alice in Wonderland like adaptation, it's just inspired by it, but I don't know. Yeah, cautiously seated is actually exactly how I would say. Lauren Scafaria is on board to write and direct. I am not familiar with Lauren Scafaria. Let's see what this resume is. Hustlers, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Okay, actually, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So hey, I mean, a musical just makes absolute sense for Sabrina Carpenter. She clearly has the vocal talents to lead a musical, and I think that she, from what I've seen, and granted it is limited, but from what I've seen, she's not a bad actress either. So to have her lead a movie and to have it be a musical, I think makes a lot of sense. I love musicals for the most part, so I'm really excited to see kind of where they go from here. I think this could be it's either going to be a hit or like a mini miss. I don't think that there's a world where this is just an absolute bomb unless it's just a really bad adaptation. But Alice in Wonderland is in the public domain now, so they're able to do a true adaptation if they wanted to. That being said, I think Alice in Wonderland inspired is fine. I think we've all seen Alice in Wonderland enough, and have seen enough references to it in literature and in media altogether. So yeah, I'm on board. I'm here for it. Now, we know that Sabrina Carpenter has been on a generational run, and we wish her all the best. Another blonde in Hollywood, maybe not doing quite as hot. Sydney Sweeney's Christy has been, it's been going through it, folks. Now, full disclosure, I did get to see this movie at the Scat Savannah Film Festival. Y'all can watch my stream talking about that. It's linked in the somewheres. I enjoyed the movie, biasly so. I love a boxing movie, and I was really surprised by the film. That being said, I am not, how do you say it? Stupid. And I have seen the marketing campaigns, and I have seen the interviews, and I have seen and heard the very faint dog whistles. So I think it's just been a very bad time to be Sydney Sweeney, and an even worse time to be Sydney Sweeney's PR team. Now, for those of you who don't know, maybe you've been checked out. Let me catch you up. Sydney Sweeney is an actress who has kind of come to fame from Euphoria, the HBO series that was massively successful. And Sweeney was a standout from that. She also quickly followed that up with The White Lotus. She received an Emmy nomination for her portrayal in The White Lotus, the first season, which of course absolutely exploded. So she had two massive HBO hits back to back, and then took that success into the big screen world with a self-produced film called Immaculate, which was a very well-received small horror movie, and then a massive rom-com with Anyone But You, starring her and Glenn Powell, who now has The Running Man coming out. So she had everything lined up to be basically an explosive, successful career, on top of the fact that she is, let's, call a spade here, objectively the type of woman that succeeds in Hollywood. She is a pretty blonde white woman who is a talented actor and has good looks, right? And she leaned into that hard, and some would maybe argue maybe a bit too much. And for some reason, some folks took that to mean that woke was dead because Sydney Sweeney was a well-endowed white woman who was proud of her features. I don't know, man. We started selling bars of soap with her bathwater in it, and it kind of went all over the place. And then, of course, the famous American Eagle jeans ad, which, say what you will about it, I think that the backlash, at the very least, warranted a response. And the lack of a response has become more of a story than the actual story itself. If Sydney Sweeney would have just gone on to say, like, Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy. Like, no, that was not the intention. Nobody brought that up. But hey, let me just go ahead and say, I do not believe in eugenics. You know, if she took the 5 seconds to say what is, for most people, not a hot take. Hey, guys, you know what? Here on my small platform, I will say, I do not support eugenics. I do not support white supremacy. And I don't think my genes are better than your genes. Especially because I'm a beautiful blonde woman. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. So, all of that to say, this controversy and everything surrounding this controversy very unfortunately lined up with a time where Sydney Sweeney was making massive swings with her career. Doing a film about a boxer, Christy Martin, doing a biopic about a boxer, playing a character who's against type. Christy Martin's not known for her good looks, or, you know, her whole shtick isn't that she's a pretty blonde, right? She's a boxer. And this is a very tough movie. It covers some pretty serious themes. I'll say again, I enjoyed the film. I think it does a good job talking about what it's like to be, you know, a pioneer in an industry and in a market that's not traditionally built for your sexual orientation, right? Like she's a woman in boxing and fighting, which is a traditional male sport. So being a pioneer, specifically one of the first professional boxers as a woman, a lot of interesting stuff there. Also somebody who was in a horrifically abusive relationship, like constantly under a really horrible domestic violence situation. Like, this is the type of story and the type of movie that, if done well, could really catapult somebody's career. And this could have been, as I had mentioned before, this could have been Sweeney's I, Tonya moment, right? It could have been like, hey, I know you know me as like the pretty blonde, but I'm actually like a serious actor, and I'm here to like make an impact in Hollywood. All of that to say, Christy, the release of Christy lined up with this really unfortunate press cycle for Sweeney. And rather than embrace it, and rather than disavow some of the negative things that are being associated with her, she has chosen to say nothing. And the people have decided to vote with their dollar. And Christy, her film, premiered with a $1.3 million opening weekend. $1.3 million opening weekend. That is not just bad, it is historically bad. For reference, Predator Badlands, which came out the same weekend, opened to $40 million. Now, again, like here, and I'll say this too, especially as someone who's plugged into this type of stuff, and I'm seeing it all the time. I oftentimes can kind of like get lost in the numbers that I'm talking about, and you hear 1 and 40 and you're like, that's a lot. There's a lot of room between 1 and 40. Like, that is literally 40 times more than 1. But then you have to remember, like, it's not the difference between 1 and 40. It is the difference between 1 million and 40 million. That is how horrendously bad this movie performed. So, in the recovery response that they're trying to do for this movie, Sweeney says, you know, we don't always make art for numbers, we make it for impact. And Christy has been the most impactful project of my life. So, yeah, you know, we're trying to save face. We're trying to save face about it, but some very funny things are happening here. Discussing film, you know, one of the largest voices in entertainment news online, talks about, you know, the film flopped at the box office. If Chrissy gave even one woman... Okay, actually, let me not skim past this. And I will say credit to Sweeney and the filmmakers for this. Hey, look, they are willing to say something. If Christy gave one woman the courage to take her first step towards safety, then we will have succeeded. So yes, I'm proud. Hey, that's great. That's great. That being said, one of the admins of Discussing Film posted, I got this PR email. Hi, Eric. Would you please mind updating the headline for us to say that despite low box office, the audience has spoken. We are 99% positive on the popcorn meter. Box office aside, this one's a win in all the ways that matter. We're so proud to back independent cinema and share a story that genuinely deserves to be seen. Oh. You know what really hurts? What really hurts is that last bit. We're so proud to back independent cinema. It's like, oh, that's not. Well, okay, and to really put the to really put the nail on the coffin about how conflicted I am about this whole movie. Because again, I liked the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I am not enjoying what I'm seeing out of Sydney Sweeney. I am not loving what I'm seeing about the PR emails that are coming in. Nicole, I'm so sorry. You got done dirty here. What I'm really not enjoying is some of the things I'm seeing about what maybe was happening in the background of this movie. So Ruby Rose, a member of the LGBTQ community who has really championed for visibility on screen. Ruby Rose, who came to public awareness from Orange is the New Black, where her character introduced gender fluidity to so many wine moms that had never heard about it before. She also portrayed Kate Kane, Batwoman on the CW. Shout out, never forget. Ruby Rose put out a statement on Threads. The original Chrissy Martin script was incredible, life-changing. I was attached to play Cherry. Everyone had experience with the core material. Most of us were actually gay. It's part of why I stayed in acting. Losing roles happens all the time. For her PR to talk about it flopping and saying that saying SS instead of Sydney Sweeney. I see what you're doing there, Ruby Rose. That's really clever. Saying SS did it for the people. None of the people want to see someone who hates them parading around pretending to be us. You're a cretin and you ruined the film. Period. Christy deserved better. So, obviously this is one person's opinion on the matter, but this is like, part of me wants to say, like, where's the reading between the lines here, right? Let's read between the lines here, aside from the attacks and aside from, I think, some very valid anger. Chrissy Martin, the story about Chrissy Martin, on top of everything that it is, it's also a story about somebody coming out and discovering their, their sexuality that was stifled through societal pressures and so much other stuff. It is a queer movie. It is a queer story. And to have a straight woman who is being associated with a lot of ideals, like eugenics, like white supremacy, like, some bigotry that is affiliated with some of the things that Sydney Sweeney is being attached to have someone say that this film originally leaned and portrayed more of that and was then changed, and because of that, queer people lost roles in the film, and part of the story of the film was maybe altered to suppress part of that. I don't know. It feels like there's a much, much bigger story here, but like, where to wrap this up? Look, I think ultimately ultimately, I'm going to find myself agreeing that, the tiniest bit here with what Sweeney was saying, right? If the movie gave one woman the courage to step up and take a step towards her safety, that's incredible, right? If you manage to see this movie and you take away the message of strength and courage and perseverance and second chances and knowing that you always have the ability to start over, that's awesome. That's incredible. And as somebody who can appreciate art separate from the artist, I don't think it's a fully possible thing to do. We can open up that conversation, Chad, if you want to get into it. But as someone who can appreciate art as a standalone piece, I like that, especially cinema, right? Especially film. Film is a collaborative art. There's hundreds of people involved with making the thing that you're ultimately sitting and watching. However, we cannot deny the fact that Sydney Sweeney has all this controversy surrounding her right now. She is a producer of the film. She's the star. She's the lead of the film. They're already campaigning her for an Oscar. They're already trying to get massive recognition for her for this role. This is a pivotal moment in her career. And this is also an opportunity where you can be the person who steps forward and takes that first step and says something. And if you're going to sit here and kind of scold at the people who are calling out the facts, right? The facts are there's some pretty nasty stuff you're being affiliated with and you're not saying anything. And there's some things that should have been in this movie that aren't in this movie. And your movie didn't make a lot of money. All of those are facts. All of those are facts. So to sit there and not acknowledge those things and not take that as an opportunity to do what you're saying, hey, Christy should empower people to take the right steps. Maybe you could go up there and be like, hey, I don't stand against, I don't stand for these things. I don't stand for these nasty things. I don't know. That's just me. That's just my take. That's where I wrap it up. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What I'm really curious to hear about chat and YouTube comments and anyone. Does the controversy surrounding Sydney Sweeney influence your decision of whether or not you're watching this movie? Or did you just not watch this movie because the marketing didn't reach you or it's not your type of vibe? Like, I'm very curious to know. I think that there's 100 reasons why someone chooses not to go see a movie, but I'm very curious what for you is the driving force of I'm not going to go see this movie. Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. The Ruby Rose news very much surprised me. All right. New Star Trek movie is in the works at Paramount with Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, the writing duo behind the incredible Dungeons and Dragons movie. If you haven't seen it, stop what you're doing and go turn it on. I think it's on Netflix right now. Wait, no, don't stop. Finish this, then go watch that movie. They also were responsible for Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'm a big fan of as well. And yes, if you're looking at John Francis Daley and you go, why do I recognize him? Yes, that is the little boy from Freaks and Geeks. He is now a writer-director. This is fun. Obviously, Star Trek is a massive franchise that Paramount is sitting on and has basically been running Paramount Plus based on the goodwill of the Star Trek IP. And there has been the looming question of whether or not the Star Trek franchise with Chris Pine at the lead would return. Obviously, those movies started by J.J. Abrams had incredible success and a lot of love from fans, both like fans of the Star Trek IP, but also new fans. It was a good entryway for a lot of folks. I'm definitely speaking from my experience. I did not grow up on Star Trek, but I did love the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie and the sequels that followed. For a long time, they were really looking to maintain that cast and maintain that continuity. But it looks like Paramount has made the decision to basically pull the trigger and start from scratch. And Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly are going to be doing their own take on the Star Trek world. So no official word yet on if this is going to be a reboot of sorts with, you know, Captain Kirk and Spock and everyone there, or if this is going to be a completely original story. I'm sure more news will be coming soon, but hey, Star Trek is coming back to the big screen. You know, folks complain a lot about how Star Wars has been stuck on the streaming screens and not on the big screen for a long time. Star Trek fans, I think, are have a lot more room to complain about that. They don't get to be in the big screen nearly as often. I know it's a little different because Star Trek started on television, but all that to say, I just want my space operas back, and I'm excited for them to be fun. I just want to have some fun watching some spaceships in the movies. So let's get to it. If you're a fan of Star Trek, are you excited for this interpretation? If you're not a fan of Star Trek, is this what gets you in? This is a comedy action, an action comedy duo. So, I mean, again, I really like that Dungeons and Dragons movie. Y'all should check it out. It's really good. And I really like Spider-Man Homecoming. So, hey, you know, I'm on board. But hey, speaking of the future, folks, we gotta talk about AI, because golly, if you saw my tabs up above, it's its own segment now. Did y'all see this headline? Did y'all throw up in your mouths a little bit when you read this headline? Disney Plus to allow user-generated content via AI. This is so weird in so many levels. So let's back up the tiniest bit. If you didn't know, Disney Plus now allows user-generated content on the platform. They have like this verified creators tab as part of Disney Plus. Let me see. Do they have no, they don't have a screenshot here. I want to show you what that looks like, because it is weird, but it kind of makes sense. The creators collection is what they call it. It does make sense for you to kind of leverage content that's being made under your IPs and your properties. Like, why not take advantage of it? And honestly, like, if you're a creator, like, I hope at least the payout is great. So as part of the creators collection, these are folks who did videos talking about the lore of the Stitch franchise, and they get featured on the app. That, honestly, kind of cool. I'm on board with that. Especially if they're doing high produced, well-made content. Like, by all means, like, go ahead and give them a shout out on your platform. It gives people more content that they're itching to watch, and it gives creators opportunities to stand out. That being said, Bob Iger is now hinting that they are possibly considering generative AI to be used on here, which is crazy because Disney is currently in very serious legal battles with startup companies like Midjourney regarding the use of generative AI trained on their copyrighted materials. And so what AI company are you going to work with? Like, this just makes no sense to me. So, Bob Iger said in an earnings call that they're in the midst of rolling out the biggest and most significant changes from a product perspective and a tech perspective since we launched. There's going to be game-like features that are going to be rolling out in partnership with Fortnite and Epic Games. And there will be generative AI short-form user-generated content on Disney Plus in the future. The other thing that we're really excited about that AI is going to give us the ability to do is to provide users of Disney Plus with a much more engaged experience, including the ability for them to create UGC and to consume UGC, mostly short form, from others. Disney said that they've had productive conversations with unnamed AI companies and that he hoped that the studio giant could reach an agreement that would also reflect our need to protect the IP. I don't know, guys. This just smells. This stinks. I don't love this at all. Look, on top of the fact that Disney is some of the most contentious as far as protecting their IP, like they will I wouldn't even dare put my Moana trailer reaction on YouTube. I would only do that live on stream because I know that if I put it on YouTube, I'm going to get slapped with a copyright, right? Like they are so contentious about protecting their IP. They're literally suing other generative AI companies. In what universe are they chill with having AI generated content on there mixed up within all of their other content? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And I hear him saying short form, and I'm very curious about what that all is going to entail, because we have seen the data that supports that. Specifically thinking about YouTube, like YouTube shorts on TVs are being watched, and I wonder if that's the area that Disney's trying to get into when they say shorts, as opposed to like, you know, like Mickey Mouse 8-minute shorts. I don't know if that's what he's referring to. I just can't wrap my head around this. I can't wrap my head around how Disney would feel comfortable about this. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, I can understand a CEO saying this, right? Like, I can understand Bob Iger on an earnings call being like, you know, we're looking at it, we're exploring it, we're having these conversations, but I just can't imagine anybody in their right mind in the room where it happens being like, yeah, this will play well. This will play well. People will like this. I don't know. Maybe, you know, Disney does have the partnership with Epic Games. They did test out the AI Darth Vader in Fortnite, and so I wonder if that was kind of what they're referring to. Like, maybe there's going to be ways that it can be like, oh, pick a character or two and you can like write a script and it'll generate a little story. But I don't know. And, you know, we had that story on Movie News Monday a few weeks back talking about how there's an AI company that's partnering with Lionsgate that was talking about how like a single studio does not have enough training material for a generative AI model. So even the entire Disney catalog would not be enough to train a good and accurate model. And so any sort of collaboration, any sort of technology that they use is gonna have to get training from somewhere else. And now you're just opening up the door for the same thing that you are suing Midjourney over, which is the possibility of creating work off of infringed materials. And not even mentioning what chat's talking about here, right? The wastefulness. Like, why? Why are we doing this? You're already raising the price of Disney Plus every other month for every other reason. You think it's going to be cheap to generate all the power and generate all the electricity and data centers and everything that it's going to take so that we can make what? A 16-second video where Elsa and Spider-Man are kissing, but it's on the platform as opposed to 30-year-olds on YouTube. Remember the Spider-Man Elsa days? You know, maybe we shouldn't be shocked because Disney took a long time to crack down on Spider-Man and Elsa videos on YouTube. So that's just where we're headed. We're headed towards AI, Spider-Man, and Elsa, but it's going to be on Disney Plus instead of on YouTube Kids. Fuck it. Maybe we do need a Labubu movie. I'll take a Labubu movie if it's not AI generated. We are taking a moratorium on AI stories for the rest of the year. I don't want to talk about this. I'm so sick of it. We are taking a break about talking about AI and talking about companies that are trying to buy Warner Brothers. I am done talking about it because it's just depressing me and I want to be happy. I want to be happy about Miss Piggy. I want to be happy about Star Trek. And I want to be happy about some of these other things. Let's talk about the DCU, huh? In other news, V for Vendetta is getting a TV series at HBO. V for Vendetta is a DC Comics property, technically. Of course, it had the very famous movie with Natalie Portman back in the early 2000s. And, the Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta has been co-opted by the internet. I think throughout the years, it has had many different meanings. Obviously, like it became a symbol for the anonymous movement and 4chan and all these other things, and now it's kind of like an ironic meme for like edgelords online. But regardless, the heart of what V for Vendetta is about is an extremely surprisingly relevant story about class consciousness and revolution and all this kind of stuff. So I would be very intrigued to see how this goes. An honest, straight V for Vendetta adaptation would be great. For me, I would also be happy if it was a Watchmen style like sequel series where it basically says, hey, everyone do your homework, you can watch the movie or you can read the graphic novel, but our show's actually going to be a sequel and expand the lore of the world, because obviously when you have a story about revolution, what's always interesting is, finding out what happens after the revolution. So what do you guys think? Do you want to watch V for Vendetta? Viewing party? Yes? Yes, I think yes. Sticking on DC and their work in television, as it was rumored and as we were all hoping, it is official. We are getting a Jimmy Olsen TV spinoff. Jimmy Olsen is getting his own TV show starring Skylar Gisondo as the titular Jimmy Olsen. And the American Vandal filmmakers, Dan Peralt and Tony Yacenda, have been tapped to lead the show. So American Vandal, if you haven't seen it, at least the first season, I don't know that I actually watched season 2. Incredibly hilarious, incredibly original comedy mockumentary that didn't feel like a mockumentary. But it seems as though this Jimmy Olsen story is going to cover Gorilla Grodd, and I just love this. I love the idea of this. Obviously, Jimmy Olsen was such a surprise in James Gunn's Superman movie. I think Skylar did an incredible job portraying him, and he was extremely charismatic and really interesting and really funny. So glad to see some very, very talented comedian or comedic filmmakers running this show. Very curious to see about Jimmy Olsen up against Gorilla Grodd. Apparently, Lois and Clark are not expected to be in the show, which I think is a huge, huge missed opportunity. If we're going to talk about this whole brand synergy, one story type thing, it does make sense to have a little bit of carryover. And I'm not even talking about why are the Avengers not showing up in the Thunderbolts because blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm not even talking about that level of like, why wouldn't Captain America show up in Daredevil? Mostly it's just, I feel like we barely got Clark Kent at the Daily Bugle in the Superman movie because we had so much more movie that we had to cover. I feel like we really missed out. And the very brief scene that he had being buddies with Jimmy Olsen was awesome. And so I would love to see more of that and love to see more of Lois Lane as a reporter. But you know what? I'm just happy to be getting a Jimmy Olsen show. So I'll be very curious. I'm optimistic for this one. I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of Superman and the future of Superman, Humberto Gonzalez did get the scoop, and on the wrap, he exclusively confirmed that, as we all suspected, Braniac is going to be the villain for Superman Man of Tomorrow. Or I believe it's just called Man of Tomorrow as of now. Man of Tomorrow is going to start filming in April here in Atlanta. Shout out. And it is slated to come out July 9th, 2027, 2 years to the day. of Superman's release. And as some of us have speculated, one, because of some of the hinting that James Gunn had done, but two, because of a leaked storyboard that came out in one of the behind-the-scenes documentaries, Braniac is going to be the villain of Man of Tomorrow. It is hinted that Lex Luthor and Superman were going to have to put their differences aside for a greater threat. What greater threat is there than Braniac? So fans of Superman, like myself, are super excited for this because this is a villain that has not quite made it to the big screen yet, and there's a lot of potential here. And I mean, it's literally like the whole premise of this type of character, right? The brains versus brawn. How do you stop the strongest man alive with the smartest man alive, right? So Braniac is a very fun foil for Superman, and there's a lot of potential there that I'm very excited about. Moving on over to the Star Wars side of things. First of all, quick moment to appreciate Oscar Isaac. That's my man of the year. In his GQ interview for Man of the Year, Oscar Isaac, while promoting Frankenstein, was asked about coming back to Star Wars. In the past, he had made a joke of like, oh, I'd never go back to Star Wars unless I needed to buy another house. Oscar Isaac kind of acknowledged, he's like, yeah, like that was kind of like a dickish thing to say. But notably, this interview took place just a couple days after Jimmy Kimmel had been suspended. And he was asked, would you return to Star Wars? Like you've said, well, maybe, why not? And Oscar Isaac said, yeah, I mean, I'd be open to it. Although right now I'm not so open to working with Disney. But if they can figure out and, not succumb to fascism, that would be great. So, hey, man, shout out Oscar Isaac. I think he's an incredible artist, an incredible advocate, representing the Latino community out there very proudly. I appreciate him for all of that. And as much as I love Poe Dameron and think that he is one of the best characters to come out of the sequel trilogy, and he is incredible in him, hey, yeah, actually, that's great. Like, it is awesome to see someone say, put their money where their mouth is and say, I would have a lot of fun coming back, but like, I don't fuck with y'all if you're going to be doing this stuff. So figure it out and then we can work together. Hey, super cool. I know a couple blondes who could learn a lesson or two from the things you're saying, Oscar. So much respect to you. I'm going to drop it. I promise. This is what happens, Chad. I take a week off and I come back bitter. I start the show off by talking about Moana live action and Labubus, and this is the type of stream you get. Sticking on the Star Wars train, we got our first, not our first look, because we do have a trailer out, but we have a new look at The Mandalorian and Grogu, the film that is coming to theaters next year. Here they are at some sort of bar, I'm assuming getting out of a bar fight. Looks like maybe some critters were stored in this bar and broke out. I would not be surprised to learn if Grogu had something to do with it. And we also heard a little bit from director Jon Favreau about the movie. Talking about, the Mandalorian Din has changed his priorities following what happened in the 3 seasons of the show. One of the last things we say is, I don't want to go out there and just be a hired gun. I want to work for the good guys. And so that's where we're going to be finding Mando and Grogu at the start of this movie. Is they're not really just bounty hunters anymore. They're actively working with the rebels and the not the rebels, I guess at this point, the Republic. They also did talk about Zeb, who is going to be a part of the film. Zeb is from the Star Wars Rebels animated series. If you don't know who Zeb is, he's best. We love Zeb. Zeb is great. Images. This is Zeb in the animated series, and this is live action Zeb, who is going to be a character in Mandalorian and Grogu. And they say, he's such a compelling character. If you've seen Rebels, between the voice, the swagger, and the physical abilities, now we really get to have fun with him. So, I'm not soured on this, okay? Okay, chat. Okay, guys, Star Wars fandom, I know that the thing you're supposed to do is come on here and come on the internet and say, I hate Star Wars. But you know what? I like Star Wars. I like Grogu. I think he's cute. I think he's funny. He makes me laugh every time he's on screen. And it makes me feel good to laugh and smile at a cute little Yoda thing. And I like The Mandalorian. I think he looks really cool. And I like that he has a mustache underneath the helmet. And I like to think about the fact that either he can't grow the rest of his facial hair or he is actively choosing to shave everything except the mustache for himself. I think that's really funny and something we don't talk about enough. And ultimately, man, I don't care. I don't care that it's not Andor. I love Andor, and I love that Andor exists, and I hope to God we get more Andor-style Star Wars content. But also, Star Wars can also just be fun, and we can have a little space opera romp that's like kind of like Flash Gordon or kind of like The Rocketeer. And maybe I just want to go to the movies and smile for a little bit, okay? Okay? There's not a lot to smile about out here, but I can smile. I can smile at Baby Yoda for 2 hours on the big screen, okay, guys? All right? And sure, you can call me, a shill, and you can say Kathleen Kennedy's got me in her pocket and whatever, but guys, I just want to have fun with Star Wars, because when I was a kid, I had fun with Star Wars, and now I'm a grown-up, and I just want to have fun with Star Wars still. I don't want to pretend I'm still a kid. I want to acknowledge the fact that I grew up and acknowledge the fact that today's kids need their Star Wars. And if I ever want to go back to being a kid, I can rewatch the old movies. But hey, guess what? Actually, I can't go back to being a kid. And every time I rewatch the movies, I go, it's not the same. And that's okay. Because that's called living life. All right, our last story for the day. Look, as happy as I am about the fact that Mandalorian and Grogu is coming out, we cannot deny that Star Wars is at a weird place. So for our last story of the day, we're going to talk about this article that came out from Boris Kitt over at Heat Vision, the Hollywood Reporter's nerd arm. Shout out Boris. He does incredible reporting. Subscribe to the Heat Vision if you want to see more of his stuff. Frankly, folks, in light of the Hunt for Ben Solo news that we talked about last time on Movie News Monday, go check out that video on the YouTube channel. There are a lot of folks itching to get into the next phase of Star Wars, and there is one key consistent player that keeps coming up, and it is Rey Skywalker, Daisy Ridley. So this article goes on to talk about how the scavenger turned Jedi, played by Daisy Ridley, is the key to the franchise's next turn. We do have Simon Kinberg, who famously worked on the X-Men movies back in the day, also has that Apple TV show that he's been working on the past few years, has signed on to write and produce a trilogy for Star Wars that is set in the sequel era. We also got the announcement for Charmin Obaye-Chinoy's movie that will be centered around Rey. That was announced at Star Wars Celebration. And we have also had a multitude of different developing films coming up and down regarding the sequel era. We had, obviously, as we now know, The Hunt for Ben Solo was being pitched. We had Patty Jenkins' Star Wars Squadrons movie that was announced and then disappeared. We had the Rian Johnson trilogy that was announced and then disappeared. So many different folks are pitching for what the next phase of Star Wars is, and the consistent thing that comes up is Rey Skywalker. She is the most valuable cinematic asset, and right now, in some ways, the only one that Star Wars has. According to sources, Rey is set to play a role in several movies that are being developed. Which one will actually come into fruition? That's not fully clear. There are several movies being developed at the same time with overlapping characters and timelines. They're not related, but whatever happens to one, and whichever one comes out first, there will be a domino effect. Save for James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, which I guess is still happening. But in either case, it looks like the state of Star Wars right now is just a race to see who can get their movie out first. And right now, the winners of that are Jon Favreau with The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Sean Levy with Starfighter, which will be coming out in a few years. But, you know, we have Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie that is also apparently still in development. We have, the Rey sequel that we were just talking about with, I want to get her name right, with Charmin Obai-Chinoy directing. We have maybe a Kenobi season 2 in the works, but that's not fully confirmed. We have Tony Gilroy and Dan Gilroy may be coming back to do more Star Wars following the success of Andor. We don't know. All of that to say, the way that Star Wars is developing their stories right now is very different. There's a lot of parallel work going on, and it does seem to be just whoever can get the movie out first wins. I like this quote here that an insider said: "You're being asked to create the New Testament, and no one can agree on anything, and there's a lot of second guessing. Star Wars is a nostalgia-based enterprise, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia." And folks, for me, I think that is honestly going right back to what I was just talking about a minute ago with Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, if I want to feel like a kid again and watch the original Star Wars movies, I can watch the original Star Wars movies, but I have the, wherewithal to understand that I'm not a kid again, and I'm watching this movie with a completely different lens that I did, over 20 years ago when I was watching these films. And I think that one of the biggest issues that Star Wars has and Star Wars fandom has right now is that their immense popularity and their immense success is their downfall. It's the fact that how do you capitalize off of that nostalgia, but how do you live up to it? How do you surpass it? How do you establish that, hey, that nostalgia can still exist here, but we're doing our own thing over here? And ultimately, because of the choices and the decisions that they made during the sequel era with Force Awakens, with Last Jedi, and with Rise of Skywalker, some things were outside of their control, right? Things like, Harrison Ford asking for Han Solo to be killed off. Things like, of course, Carrie Fisher tragically passing away during production. Like, some of those things they could not fully control, right? But them starting that trilogy without a full developed idea all the way through, them backpedaling on some of the decisions of Last Jedi, them caving to fan pressures, like, they kind of made their bed, right? And so to hear that right now what's happening in the scramble is seeming to be parallel work and is seeming to be, well, what can we get out first and we'll just go from there, it unfortunately to me feels like maybe they didn't take away the right lessons from the sequel trilogy, and that makes me a little bit nervous. So I know some folks have talked about their disappointment in Star Wars basically becoming a streaming franchise, basically becoming a TV franchise right now over the past few years. Frankly, I know that there have been some misses. I have enjoyed Star Wars on television. I enjoyed The Mandalorian. I enjoyed Andor. I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. I liked The Acolyte and Kenobi. They didn't blow me away, but I liked them. And so I'm fine if Star Wars takes their time and really, goes into the big screen with an actual plan of action and not just a rush. But at the end of the day, this is a massive, massive, massive IP that Disney spent $4 billion on, that Disney has built theme parks around and has merchandising on. So I get it that they have to stay on top of it in one way, shape, or form. It's just like, to me, there's stories there to tell. And if we can look past the nostalgia, if we can look past some of the pressures of the fandom and some of the headaches of, well, we have to do this, we have to do that, there are stories to tell. You just have to pull the trigger on one. That's all you got to do. But folks, with that story, I definitely want to know your thoughts on what the right direction is for Star Wars. What do you want to see out of the Star Wars franchise in the future? What do you want to see for Rey Skywalker? Do you want to see her, do we want to jump ahead a far amount of time? Do we want to see her backpedal a little bit? Like, what kind of story do you want to see from there? I just want to see something. I just want to see something at this point. Well, that's not true. I want it to be good, but let's get to it, right? But folks, with that, that's actually going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching Movie News Monday, where we are live on Twitch. We talk about the news here. We talk about other stuff, so it's not always just the news. Sometimes we have some fun. Today we caught up on a bunch of trailers before we started our shows, so make sure to head on over to Twitch and give us a follow there so you can catch these shows live. If you're watching these on YouTube after, hey, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, tell your friends. But thank y'all so much. Really appreciate you. If you want to know when I'm going live, follow me on all the socials. If you want to see short clips and highlights of the streams, check us out specifically on Instagram and TikTok. But other than that, I've been Jupi Gorg. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you at the movies. See you next time, folks. I kind of switched up the ending there. I usually say see you at the movies, but I said catch you at the movies. What am I doing? Gosh, I take a week off and suddenly I don't know what I'm doing anymore. All right, goodbye.